one of the more exciting times of the year has finally arrived. It being the FPL season running, there's wildcards being played. There's even a new fantasy game mode that I just discovered earlier in the week. But the question is has one of our panel members / guests decided to play one of the more powerful chips in the game? All to be seen on this edition of the FPL Addicts podcast. Good evening to you all. Welcome to the Game Week 30 edition of the FPL Addicts podcast, coming off an international break and the final one for this season. We have got so much to get through, and without further ado, I'm joined by the usual panel member in Chris Reedy, but also I've got a debut appearance tonight for FPL Karan. Karan, good evening to you, and welcome to the FPL Addicts podcast.
Thanks for having me here, and it's been an absolute pleasure. I love the name of this podcast, which is FPL Addicts, because I consider myself to be an addict as well. And yeah, like you mentioned, Game Week 30 is upon us, and there's so much to talk about.
That's right. It's not just you joining, but it also is Chris Reedy that has just decided to set up his own laptop as the intro music was being played. Good morning to you, Reedy, where you are.
Good morning, Chazza. Good morning.
Hey, Reedy.
As well. Hi, man. Good to be here. 2 weeks international break. It's been a while, but we're finally back to some normal football, hopefully now. And it's going to be a weekend of action, midweek football, then weekend again. So it's going to be a real treat. Obviously, yeah, great to chat some FPL again and see how you guys are going with that.
Has it been more of a snooze mode for you within this vacation period for you, Reedy, first and then next to Karan, or have you really been relatively focused on what's been going on in your fantasy game?
I don't know if it's been snooze mode as such. I mean, obviously, like international football, it can be a bit monotonous, so to speak. You're not as interested, obviously, in the football and so on. So, we've obviously had players pull out as well, with injuries, as they call it. So that's interesting, always keep an eye on that one and stuff. But no, I think I've just been patiently waiting this time just for football to come back. I think obviously with so much riding on the league at the minute, there's 3 teams involved, there's Champions League places up for grabs, and there's points deductions going on in the league at the minute, which is crazy at this stage of the season. So no, I've just been patiently waiting and looking forward to when it's back, mate.
Karan, how about in yourself? Is some of the information potentially just flown over the head, which could be in the same boat for a lot of fantasy managers, or have you kept close tabs on what's been going on?
Well, I think like Reedy mentioned, there's so much going on, right? I mean, there's so much to look forward to, but at the same time, the Champions League fixtures and I guess the international break for me has been a bit of both. So I've played my wildcard, just as a spoiler alert for everyone. And ever since having hit that button at the end of Game Week 29, because I was dead ending into 29, I've kind of contemplated the decision of whether it was right or wrong. But now that we are here 24 hours or so away from the deadline, I'm quite excited. And a lot of the information I've actually have kept close tabs on, and a lot of players pulling out or a lot of injuries, rumored or actuals. I think there's so much about it that is going to impact my decisions in the next 24 hours.
Before we get and dive into what we want to try and make it as short duration as possible, the shit show of Game Week 29, I promised not to swear in that instance. Let's go and say good day to the people who have decided to join in, the regulars. And Gary, yes, ready for some action. It is Good Friday, and I can't lie, with a public holiday, bank holiday in the UK, they like to refer, it is very hard to find guests. That's why I'm incredibly appreciative of Karan devoting some of his time to join in. Calm as usual. Good morning to you. Do we think Reedy is going to take a -4 or a -8 this week? We don't know. All to be revealed later on. John David, good morning to you, wherever you might be. A lot is stirring the pot. That's usually the case of this podcast on a weekly basis. Karan, let's go straight into your Game Week 29 team. And yes, you're going to see an abundance of low scores. How did you fare on this occasion?
I think we should go straight in and straight out, to be honest.
Yeah, let's do that.
21 minus 4. So I had taken a hit, and I had probably taken 2 more hits in the weeks gone by, just to get a playing 11 together. And like we know, there was probably no one scoring for people apart from wildcarders, or sorry, not wildcarders, but for free hitters, where they had the likes of Muniz or Gibbs White. Like you can see, I had no one. Son captain, but yeah, I think it's time to move on, to be honest.
Let's remove one screen. Far out. Brady, 4 games. Everyone butchered everything. Was it a big surprise packet, probably outside of Rodrigo Muniz, who really stood out to you in your eyes on that blank game week?
I mean, Fulham basically, wasn't it, right? Of all those fixtures. I mean, everyone was expecting, and what should have happened was Spurs win comfortably, maybe even keep a clean sheet. But fair play to Fulham. Muniz, as you say, Leno, Robinson was another one who people did bring in. He's actually probably not got as much credit as he deserves this season. Robinson, he is up there with the points, but obviously, for the back end of this season, Fulham's fixtures aren't amazing. But for that 29, Castagna was another one. So yeah, definitely underwhelming for everyone, I'd say, apart from those people who picked Fulham players and went against the Tottenham crowd, so to speak. So fair play to them. Fair play.
Let's start with straight into our podcast league, consisting of 6 members. Let's start with Ollie's side, who's probably built his Game Week 29 side since Game Week 21. And
he smashed it.
He got
30 points.
30 points. Yeah, half of them, a third of them coming from Anthony Robertson, who was a big surprise there. He also captained Chon in Game Week 28, which, of all people, a very bold call, but it paid dividends. Karan, what's your take on this side?
Well, Robinson stands out for sure, but I'm surprised to see the likes of Mope and Chong, to be honest.
This is a free hit, right? I'm just sorry to interrupt you.
This isn't a free hit, right? Because there's Foden and Gabriel and Haaland on the bench. I think the start that we had to last week with Brentford and the red card to Reguilon, I think it became a shit show straight away for everyone. So I'm just glad I didn't have Brentford defenders, to be honest. And the team looks all right, apart from the couple of players that I mentioned. And Robinson, 11-pointer, I think that probably saved the game week.
Yeah. Rady, what was your point?
I was just saying that, it's mad that Ollie's got this team. Not that it's a great team, because on paper, it's not great at all. But the fact that he's somehow got, 11 playing players in 29 without a free hit? I would guess if you just click on Ollie's game week history there,
let's do it.
Has he got his wild card left? Second wild card, right? Oh my God, no. Right. So he's stuck with these players unless he takes it.
It's only got bench boost.
Yeah.
It's going to be very difficult to manage the next few weeks with the double game weeks around the corner.
Yeah.
But yeah, he smashed the game. As far as game week 29 goes, he's absolutely killed it, smashed it. Well done. Best of luck, Ollie, for the rest of the season.
Oh, big time. That could be difficult to manage. Let's look at more difficult numbers. Let's say Rev somehow ending up on 10 points. And I think he already played his free hit. Is that right, Rady?
Yeah, I think he has. He's gone with how many players? 1, 2, 4 players.
4.
Which is crazy, but I say it's crazy. I mean, we look at the grand scheme of things. 10 points is not that bad considering what people got. I mean, I got 11, which you'll see in a minute, and I had 8 players, maybe 9. I can't remember. So it's not that bad realistically, but I think think Rev will be probably looking to wildcard and so on with that team. So yeah, 10 points, all out.
That's right. Jack's side, who managed to get 20 points, so twice as much as Rev.
11 players
Karan, yeah, 20, and he played his free hit there. Karan, Castagna on the bench. Would you have done that heading into the deadline?
I mean, if you think the logic of the three defenders that are on the pitch, Doughty, Pedro Porro, and Cash, I don't see anything wrong there. I think it was a game week of variance where no one anticipated Fulham to be bashing Spurs and Spurs to be having a quiet day. So logically speaking, that kind of makes sense. But like you said, Castagna on the bench with a 10-pointer, that doesn't look that great, does it?
No, it doesn't. Those points just hurt. Reedy, is there a comment you want to say about Jack outside of him eating shit?
I mean, I think Jack's picked a solid enough team. Can't argue with that. Obviously, he's gone for Morris instead of maybe a Moniz, and he's benched Fulham. He's had that, he's been in that frame of mind that probably most of us would if we had a free hit, and that's go for Spurs attackers. Double Spurs attack, and he's gone for Porro who takes set pieces. So I can't really knock him or bash him too much really for that.
Reedy, you're up next. 11.
11. Yeah. As we can see, I think, am I the only one so far? Maybe Ollie might have had Regulon as well. Who got
he had Roslev.
Oh, did he Roslev? So I got a nice cheeky -3 from Regulon, which was fantastic. Van der Ven was injured. So that was a player that I'd brought in on the wild card that didn't end up playing. So that was great. And then, yeah, obviously the rest speaks for itself. Same as Jack's in a way. Same 3 forwards as Jack. Bowen did nothing. Alanga had 2 chances cleared off the line, I believe, or something like that. So, yeah, 11 points. And I don't really want to spend too much time dwelling on this.
Let's not do that. The best of all of the podcast members, Elliot managed to get 26, which is actually pretty damn good. Had Anthony Robinson on field as well, but slightly compromised with Region sending off. Karan, actually not a bad team. What's your take on it?
Well, I was just going to say, when you said 26 on the board, I said that's a good score, and that kind of defines the game week that it was, right? We're calling a 26 a good score.
I know.
Yeah. Again, Robinson probably the only one standing out, but how often do we see the likes of Son, Maddison, Richarlison, Watkins, Tony all blanking in a game week where there's only 4 fixtures?
Yeah.
No, nightmare.
That's right. I was curious to know in terms of what chips he's got left. So he's played both wild cards, played it in 27. So he's got the free hit and the bench boost. So he's likely to play with free hit in 34, which we will talk about later on. But on my side, this is, of all the 9 seasons playing FPL, whoever's watching right now have come to the right place. It's the lowest ever score in my managerial history. I just want to say, there's blanks everywhere. No goals, no assists, no clean sheets, no discounts. Oh, my God.
You're not alone, Shaza. We've all been through this together, and I'm sure, like you said, we want to keep it short and succinct. Let's just move on. No.
It's so hard to fathom that game week. It really is. It's just.
I think it was game week 11 as well, right? That was kind of a very low scoring game week for some this season.
Yeah,
but nothing beats 11, this one.
Yeah, that would have been it. Yeah, game week 11. But I think this one I have to take a cake. It being 4 games, and then so many free hits played too.
Yeah, I'm just glad that I kind of stuck through my strategy, because it was around game week 25 or 26 that I could have pivoted and I could have gone, oh, let's not worry about bringing in shit players or really bad players, and just free hit 29 and then worry about the rest of the season later. But I'm just glad I stuck to my strategy of dead ending my team to 29, because the players that I had, including Tony, Bowen, etc., I'm not that confident of carrying them through. So I'm just glad
That's right.
free hit is still with me.
looks like we already had a sending off on the podcast. Already dropped out, and now he's back into the game. He's risen from the ashes. Onto the public league, just a brief update. Everyone pretty much had low scores. Jojo's still leading by 29 points, but Ian Whateley, I should say, apologies for mispronunciation, managed to get 32 points, which is not bad. Played the free hit. And in terms of this side, Morgan Gibbs-White and Chris Wood, Robinson on the bench. Some good shouts, but also some missed out points there. Geez, I actually looked all right, to be fair. Chris Wood, Reedy, is he ever in your consideration, do you feel?
If I'd have had a free hit left, I would have picked him. And that's not me just like, that's not a hindsight thing or whatever. I genuinely think he was a good option for that game week. But obviously, like, you know, injury and you know, he's not the most consistent forward, obviously, and it's Forest at the same time. So I can see why people wanted to stay away, and probably Ollie Watkins and Ivan Toney were the two most popular. So maybe it was a coin toss between Wood and Muniz. But yeah, I really like the Chris Wood. So anyone who went there, you know, well done.
Fair call.
Yeah. And we also, with a women's league, Jojo's still leading by 35 points in this instance. But we also found someone that did score 32 points, it being Zara Kennedy. Did I have Gibbs-White and Chris Wood about it? Did have Gibbs-White, but Rodrigo Muniz. Karan, what a game week Muniz had. And have you been surprised in terms of how fast his growth has been within the game?
Well, for me, it was a 50-50 between Tony and Muniz. I just went with the XG birthday stat, that it was Tony's birthday and he might score against Burnley. And it just so happened that Muniz had a brace or something. It was a 50-50, like I said. And Quinton from our FPL community in Australia definitely was, you know, about to get me on the Muniz train, but I said no to it. So in hindsight, I should have gone Muniz.
Reedy, the Muniz guy, is he worth consideration into your thinking for the coming game weeks?
It's a difficult question because yes is the straight answer. But then we've got 8 game weeks to go, and you know, depending on what chips you have and stuff, and you know, we've got doubles and things like that coming up as well. The transfers are quite limited. You know, so to get him in, are you using a transfer that you know, are you taking a hit, or are you using a transfer you don't need to as such? Like, the problem is that Fulham have 2 great fixtures. You know, they have Sheffield, and then I think it's a decent fixture. I can't remember, is it Burnley or
they're playing Forest. Now they're playing Forest next
Forest, that's the one. Yeah, Forest. So thank you for that, Karan. So yeah, I mean, 2 great fixtures, and he's in form, so to speak. So if you can get him, great. He's so cheap, isn't he? That's the temptation. Sorry,
yeah, it's quite tasty, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, a striker in form who's so, you know, really cheap. You know, depends if you want to go with the 3-5-2 or the 3-3-4-3, because a lot of people are loading up on the likes of Liverpool now, likes of Arsenal. People want Palmer still, so those spots are really difficult. And who do you leave out then if you're going to play 3 forwards? You know. So, yeah, it is complicated in a nutshell.
Speaking of forward dilemmas, we had a good question here from Jonathan David. Haaland, Muniz and Watkins, Isak. Which 2 would you start, Karan?
Oh, gosh. It's a tricky one. I mean,
yeah,
playing the fixture, I feel Arsenal have it in them to block City out. And as much of a big couch you would need to bench Haaland, I wouldn't mind going with the fixture for Muniz and for Watkins or Isak.
Wow.
Especially if you're not captaining Haaland.
Yeah, geez, benching Haaland. Probably the first person to say so. But there is merit in it, especially with your last point, if you're not going to captain him. Reedy on this one, this is quite tough.
It is, yeah, it is definitely tough. I really don't know. Like, Haaland, basically, if you isolate him and don't stop him from receiving the ball and being in space to be able to score, then yeah, I mean, Arsenal are capable of doing that. I think they've still got is it the best defensive record this season? Chazza,
yeah.
You're an Arsenal fan, so I'm guessing
that's right.
Yeah, you'll know that. But it is tough because these players, as good as they are in terms of form, Muniz, Isak, obviously for Newcastle can be fantastic. Watkins obviously at times, and that's almost it's a derby for the Villa Wolves is a derby game really, isn't it? So it's really tough. I can't make a call. Genuinely can't make a call. You bench Haaland and he ends up scoring 2, and you feel like a fool. So I would probably on this one, I would forget about Isak. I would go with Haaland, Muniz, and Watkins.
Yeah, what if you've got Watkins though? If you've got Watkins, you start Watkins, don't you, against Wolves at home?
You would at home to Wolves.
I think you would.
If it was Isak, yes, I think I'll not sit on the fence and probably say bench Isak because the EO doesn't come into picture.
Yeah, exactly. I think it depends also what John's doing from a formation point of view. I would guess he's thinking about a 3-5-2 if he's talking about which 2 would you start there. He's saying which 2 would you start. So that in itself then means that you're going to have to forget one of those strikers. And I think if he's got Isak, you bench Isak, play Haaland, Muniz. You could potentially bench Haaland and play Muniz and Watkins, but it is just something just feels wrong.
You make a very good point, really, that if it's a 3-5-2 and the fifth midfielder is probably Saka, away to City, I would back the home fixture for Haaland in that case. Maybe go 3-4-3.
Yes, Karan.
If Saka happens to be a midfielder.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. I mean, I have seen a few people who are wildcarded, whereby they've got Saka, but they're benching him. Not to say that they've got Haaland in that wildcard, but it's a very, very good point. With them being away, Arsenal, you could potentially risk that. It's all a risk, isn't it? Do you bench Haaland? Do you bench Saka? 2 great players.
8 attackers, and that's the dilemma you get each week, I think, and that's probably where I'm at with my wildcard draft.
Yeah. I think
what are your thoughts?
Yeah, great. This is a really difficult question. I think I'll go Haaland and I'll go Watkins. However, I feel there is value in fielding Rodrigo Muniz, not as a third striker, but actually as a second striker. But the question is who would go third. But however, with Muniz's run, with the run he's not the run he's just on, but also he's got Forest, Sheffield United, Newcastle in his next 3. I think it's worth fielding him with a lot of confidence.
Yep, I agree.
But it's just the case because there's so many good midfield options at the moment. It makes it tough to put him in that bracket for Muniz as being a second choice striker. So now he has to go third. And there's a lot of good striker options at this stage of the season too.
Yep. It's a tough one, boys. But I think we've answered it the best way we physically can because it is a dilemma, isn't it?
That's right. Cole had a comment. This was had the star next to it as well. Fulham at home is miles better than Fulham away. Reedy, I'm not sure. Did you put a star on this?
Yeah. I mean,
what do you think on it?
I think it's a great shot. I mean, Colm's a Fulham fan, I think, anyway. So I agree with that. I mean, there's no reason why Fulham go away to Sheffield, and we've seen it this season already where we've expected Sheffield United to get battered. Even they went away to Villa. I remember that fixture where it might have even been 18 when I free hitted, and I had Ollie Watkins possibly captained him. They drew 1-1. Same with, was it Bournemouth? We expected Bournemouth to batter Sheffield at home. Sheffield United went 2-0 up. Bournemouth managed to get a draw on that one. So, I mean, I think, Colin makes a great point. Fulham are better at home. Could they slip up away to Sheffield United, who are struggling? I mean, Sheffield United still go down. I think that's obvious. But, are they still going to fight as much as they can? Yeah. So, I agree with Colin, as I say. Fulham definitely better at home.
Colin, are you in agreement with this?
Well, I think the home and away, as much as it makes sense, I think Sheffield United are still struggling. And given the recent results that we've seen against them, I think the odds would say Fulham would probably still win 3-1, maybe 2-0. I don't know. I'm hyped up about Muniz, to be honest, especially after having missed out on Game Week 29.
Oh, yeah, it was just a game week of his own that it is. But the question is now, heading to Game Week 30, which players are going to make a game week of their own? We've got the Game Week 30 fixtures right here. Ignore the time slots of people in the UK. This is just from where we are at the moment. Ready, first off to you, a particular standout fixture from this weekend.
Oh God. Okay, I'll try to avoid the obvious one, and I'll try to maybe go from an FPL point of view. I would probably say that Spurs Luton.
I like that.
Is a good fixture as such. Spurs have obviously just come away from Craven Cottage with a 3-0 loss. Luton, they're fighting and so on. They I'll have to check this actually as well. Did they lose, or was it a draw? It was a 1-1 draw, wasn't it, against Forest? I think, didn't they score? Was it right at the end of the game as well to get that draw?
Yeah.
Luton.
Yep.
So Luton haven't been the best lately. They've got a lot of injuries. You'd expect Spurs to come out fighting in that one. There's doubts about Richarlison, I think, at the minute playing, but obviously they've got the likes of Son and Maddison and so on. So Werner as well. So I think that's a good game on paper. Maybe it might not go as smooth as what people think from a Spurs point of view. I think Luton will still have some fight in them, and I think that'll be an interesting game, to be honest. If Spurs score early on, a couple of goals, I think that'll set the tone for the game. But I think if they struggle to score, Luton will fancy their chances of nicking a point or more. So that one's interesting for me.
Karan.
I was going to go Spurs and Luton as well, because I feel Spurs have a point to prove after having gone down to Fulham last weekend in the last game week. I understand that Spurs might be without Richarlison, but Luton have got so many injuries in their camp. I don't think they've got 4 proper defenders to be featuring in the playing 11. So I see it being a bloodbath, maybe 3-1, 4-1 kind of a game. I don't see a clean sheet for Spurs, because Spurs love to concede somehow. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's a 3-1 or a 4-1.
I'm going complete different take on this. I'm going Chelsea versus Burnley, only because I feel Chelsea not only have potential 2 double game weeks set to be announced, which we'll talk about shortly, but they have, I think, what I can recall, Sheffield United coming up, Man United, Everton, Burnley, and then also up until the end of the season, they have fantastic fixtures. Cole Palmer is a player most of us managers own, but it's more what could we see out of this game from the likes of Malo Gusto, who's a good enabler and playing as right back at the moment for the Blues, Petrovic as well, and any other midfield shouts, or even a Nicholas Jackson. Chelsea won this game, it would have been 4-1, and Palmer managed to get 12 points. Burnley are one of the worst sides away from home this season. More stats to come in the captaincy corner segment, but I think it's a big game for Chelsea assets. Either some of us managers are plunging in already, or it's a watch list type game.
Yeah, Palmer, I think obviously people want to have him if they haven't already. I kept him after, during a wildcard, which I did in 28, because I wanted to just get those double fixtures or double game week players, I should say, that didn't turn out the way that I hoped it would be. Especially with that Dominic Solanke penalty miss to start off. But I kept hold of Palmer because I didn't want to have to make that move afterwards. So I kind of weighed it up against, say, the likes of Ross Barkley, who I think maybe got 7 points in one of his fixtures or something. But I think overall, that -4 of me getting him back in, and then what Palmer could score against Burnley, he's been their standout player by a mile, and from an FPL point of view, he's been a great FPL asset as well at the price he's at. So, great one on that one. Sterling was another one, just to point that out, in the last fixture against Burnley. I think he got a haul. I don't think people will be going for him on wildcard just because there's so many stacked midfielders or great picks and choice at the minute. So, but interesting game, Chaz, as you say. I think there's 2 other ones. I don't know if Karan wants to have a look and maybe pick 1 or 2 others. Definitely 2 of the games. But there's 3 of the games, really.
Just a word on that Chelsea and Burnley fixture. I think, Chaza, you mentioned Palmer. Of course, I think he's a season keeper for the rest of the season. I actually moved away from Palmer in anticipation of playing of fielding a playing 11 for Game Week 29. And Palmer was one of the reasons why I actually activated my wildcard straight in for Game Week 30. I don't see Nicholas Jackson being an option, given that I think he's on 9 yellow cards already, and He loves to get a booking. He's a yellow card magnet for some reason. And there's better forward options, I guess. We've already discussed a few, and we'll probably be discussing a few more. But yeah, other fixtures. I'm actually keen to see how Man United fare against Brentford away, because Man United already won against Liverpool, so they might be running on a high. But we know Man United of late, they win and then they end up losing in the very next game. So as much as they might be boasting about top 4, top 6, I'm not sure. So I'm keen on seeing how that goes.
I like that shout. That's good. It's a big game for Ivan Toney as well, who I think has blanked the last 5 games too. So it's big. I think Brentford need to get something out of that game to keep their chances of survival enhanced for this campaign. We're going to swerve our way to the transfer traffic now, with press conferences already underway. They love getting Eddie Howe out of a window.
Are we not going to touch on the City Arsenal game, Jazz? I know. Are we? No, Liverpool Brighton maybe.
Right.
Two probably best games.
Well, we've got an Arsenal supporter and a Liverpool supporter on the pod, so maybe.
Yeah. No,
I mean, massive in terms of the title race, right? It's not the title decider by any means, but it's obviously a huge fixture after the international break, and Liverpool at home to Brighton. I'm not gonna say this with too much confidence, but I'm going to take a guess. Karan's got Salah on his wild card. I could be wrong on that one.
He's got the armband for now, but yeah, let's talk.
Yeah, but come on, guys, these 2 fixtures. I mean, if Liverpool get this win against Brighton, and I don't know, want a City or Arsenal win, it's not a huge swing, but it's definitely something for whatever team gets 3 points can build on for the remainder of the season, right? How do you guys see these games going?
Come on, you first.
Yeah, go on, Karan.
I think City Arsenal, I see it being a very tight game. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a 0-0 or a 1-0, because I'm sure both teams know how to shut the other team out. And in the reverse fixture, I remember Haaland hardly got any touches when they were playing at Arsenal's home. So yeah, that's probably going to be a tight game. With Liverpool Brighton, again, Brighton are a decent defense, to be honest. As much as in an open eye test, they appear to be quite open, but the stats suggest otherwise. So as much as I'm almost tripling up on Liverpool at the moment, being a Liverpool supporter, I feel it could be tighter than what we know. I'm suggesting a 2-1 kind of a game for that one.
I think for City Arsenal, I reckon it's going to end 1-1. I think Arsenal have been a lot more resolute in these colossal type matchups. And for Liverpool, the way Brighton have been defending, I understand it was 3-3 last season. I think Liverpool win this probably 4-1. I think it's just such a huge game for Salah. And let's face it, technically, I know he got a goal and assist away at Brentford, and he was coming off an injury then, and then he re-aggravated it. But his last actual game week where he returned was before he went to AFCON, which would have been in game week 20 from what I can recall. That was 16 points against Newcastle. Along with that, he missed a penalty. So I think he's such a powerful asset when he's fit.
Yeah. I think you boys are spot on in terms of predictions and so on, how these games might go. Neither team will want to lose in City Arsenal. We saw how it went at Anfield when City came to our place, and they were better in the first half an hour. They managed to get their goal and so on, or maybe even for longer period of that first half, majority of it. Second half, we came out, battered them, should have potentially won that game. And you saw City, they basically didn't want to lose, didn't want to lose that game at any cost. So, I think it's going to be very much of the same. I do have a sneaky, I don't know why, something inside me saying that Arsenal win this 1-0 again. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I feel like as much as City have their possession, if Arsenal can limit their chances, and and their big guns are Odegaard can run the show, Saka can get in there, and so on. It'd be interesting to see who he goes with as the number 9, because he has got choices of Jesus, Havertz, and I know that Trossard's not going to be one of the first choices, but he has got that as an option, Arteta. So it'd be interesting to see who goes with. Everything probably points to Havertz, because he's in great form at the minute as well, which I know we've not mentioned.
He's been in red hot form, yeah.
But Liverpool should have the firepower to batter Brighton. Realistically, we've got lots of players back fit. So yeah, we'll see how it pans out, boys.
Take two. We're going straight into the transfer traffic. Now, the outs this game week, De Bruyne as the most transferred out. There's a number there, 261,000, followed by Bowen, Doughty, Morris, and Ivan Toney. Karan, any surprises on this front?
I don't think so. I think it's fairly straightforward. You can see on the left-hand side with the top transfers in, with Salah, Palmer, Son being the three midfielders that everyone wants to bring in, especially given the way the fixtures have been announced for game week 34 with the doubles, and also how Spurs might have a double in 35, 36 plus 37. So I think that kind of makes sense. In terms of players out, I think Bowen probably still has a good fixture against Newcastle this week.
He does.
But I guess there's a problem of plenty, right? Which ones do you pick? Because the midfield options are so stacked.
Really?
Yeah, it's a good point. No, it is a good point. I think those top five in, pretty obvious, I'd say. I think interesting that Gusto's come in there. Number 5, Chelsea, good fixture against Burnley at home. They have some good fixtures plus doubles coming up. So you can understand why he's in there. Reece James is obviously out the picture still at the minute with a hamstring injury. And then KDB's back at the minute. Like, apparently he's okay, so you'd imagine he'll play in this game, but people just don't fancy really holding him in. I think
he loves playing against Arsenal. He loves playing against Arsenal.
Big fixture guy as well, if anything. He's a big fixture player. But, there's a lot of people that kind of got burnt by him when they brought him in. Was it the double 25?
That was one of them.
Yeah, sorry, Karan, to bring that up. I didn't realize. Obviously, I didn't know, but
that's all right,
isn't it? People are going to get
part of the game.
Yeah. I mean, if you can go De Bruyne and get a forward Salah, if you can go Bowen, a forward Salah, it just feels obvious, doesn't it? So, I don't see anything wrong with those moves. Tony's the one that interests me is Ivan Toney, right? So, I've got Toney, and I brought him in for 29. Now, is there better strikers? Is there some? So say, for example, I did Muniz instead of Toney, or Wood, something like that. I don't know how I genuinely feel, because even though Tony's been blanking and stuff, I think it's interesting having him because not many people are going to want to get him on wildcard or will be able to get to him as such. So I'm kind of hoping that he does rediscover some form, and with Mbeumo coming back as well, Brentford, start off well, especially this weekend against Manchester United, which I'd enjoy. So we'll see.
We certainly shall see. In terms of what we've learnt and coming after the transfer segment, now, well, big news over the international break, if you don't mind me going. We're going to go straight to the fixtures and the FDR. The game week 34 fixtures been announced, with 7 sides now having a double game week, it being Arsenal, Crystal Palace, Everton, Bournemouth, Liverpool, and Sheffield United, along with Wolves. Is this how it would have been expected in your eyes, Karan, or were you expecting less fixtures?
No, I think it's pretty spot on in terms of the different fixture predictions that we saw from the likes of Ben Crellin and even from Planet FPL. I think the one surprise that was no Spurs. So Spurs are blanking, and that is something I didn't anticipate. So, but I guess all in all, people with a free hit or without a free hit can still probably navigate through that game week 34 fixture or double game weeks.
Brady, much on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all knew that doubles were going to land. Obviously, it was a bit of a minefield with people trying to work out when it would happen. Obviously, you had the FA Cup semis, Liverpool going out, Wolves going out, which people didn't expect, or the bookies as didn't predict as such. So that then maybe threw of course, a spanner in the works. But yeah, I think a healthy amount of doubles, decent. As Karan said, if you've got a free hit, people who are wildcarding now might then be looking, okay, I can free hit in 34. I mean, I think generally the bench boost is the tricky one. Do you play it in 34? 37. Do you go 37? I think it really is a difficult one. So, yeah, I'm happy with 34's fixtures and how the doubles have landed, really.
Yeah. Along with Arsenal and Liverpool probably being the two standout sides in terms of how the fixtures panned out. Do you feel there's going to be any love for Crystal Palace having back-to-back home games?
I'd probably go that way. I've got a free hit in my back pocket. Might activate in 34, and I've got I think there's a Palace defender. Is it Munoz? Is that how it's pronounced?
Yeah, Munoz, yeah.
Yeah, and Eze or Olise, whoever is fit. I think 2 home games. We've seen West Ham and Newcastle being not that great defensively lately. So I see that there could be an attacking return or two for both of those players.
Yeah. Reedy, is there any other side that is sort of standing out to you, or is Arsenal and Liverpool being the main one?
Oh, it's got to be Arsenal Liverpool, right? I mean, they've got the best players. Obviously Chelsea is an interesting one. We mentioned Nicholas Jackson earlier on. You said, obviously they've got Burnley this week and some great fixtures coming up. Defensively, they're not the best. Gusto does feel like enough, but I can see why people maybe then go into like Petrovic, for example. It just, I suppose, depends on your preference. But I do probably think that the attacking option is better in that game week. I think Chelsea is it 2 home fixtures at the minute that's predicted?
No, so yeah, they do, I think, but regardless what happens, they've got to put in Tottenham Hotspur in either 35 or 36. Preferably 36 for managers, but it's only Arsenal away in 34.
Okay. Oh, wait there. So at the moment, so Chelsea don't double right in 34, do
I
they?
don't double in 34, no.
And I think that's one of the dilemmas that wildcarders right now would face, because people are tripling up in a way on Chelsea mostly with their wildcard. And one thing would be, if you don't have a free hit in 34, that kind of becomes tricky to navigate.
Yeah. My bad. I was getting confused with the potential double that Chelsea might have in 35, 36. That's what I was thinking of. So yeah. Sorry. In terms of the doubles that week, I mean, yeah, Liverpool and Arsenal a massive standout. Bournemouth double as well, don't they? But
I don't mind the Newcastle double.
Yeah, Newcastle's isn't too bad, but I mean,
so they don't have a double in 34.
Oh, do they not? Okay, sorry, I'm getting confused with my free hit.
They're Palace away, and that's it.
Yeah, right. Palace away. Yeah. So the doubles in 34 are at the moment are basically Liverpool, Arsenal, Wolves, Bournemouth. Anyone else? Oh, Palace. I think. So there's about 4 doubles, is it?
So 7 sides.
Sheffield United as well. They're another one. Yeah. So there's quite a few, but
Everton as well. I'm not sure. I hope I did mention him. Yeah, Everton
do have a double.
Yeah. So it's not great. It's not great. But yeah, 7 sides double. Sorry. So it's Everton, Arsenal, Bournemouth, Liverpool, Sheffield, Palace, and Wolves. Yeah. Wolves fixtures.
Yeah. So
Arsenal one's not great. Yeah, but then it's Bournemouth.
Did you go ahead, Nori?
Yeah, they're pretty good before and after 34 as well. I'd go at Nori.
Nori's not a bad shout. He's been playing as an attacker almost for Wolves.
Yeah, he's got a free role in the team right now with so many injuries in their camp.
Yeah. And what about you, Chazza? What are you thinking for 34 then?
I think it's quite big. It does sort of help with having the free hit, only in this aspect that it might be easy to go to Palace players or potentially a couple of defenders down back. But with Arsenal and Liverpool, 4 managers who have already used their free hit, it may feel a little less redundant. So Wolves fixtures, as Karan mentioned, they've got Villa away, and then they've got Burnley away, West Ham at home, Forest away, got the double, and then Luton at home, then Man City away. And for the last 2 game weeks of the season, they finish off with Crystal Palace at home, along with Liverpool away. So there's a lot of away games. There's a couple of tricky ones, but I'm in agreement with what Karan said just then. A discussion point I want to talk about, because this is a big conundrum, especially heading into double game week 34, is what's the best way for managers to deal with their Chelsea and Tottenham assets? Because they're both going to double in either 35 or 36. But Spurs are going to blank, and Chelsea go away at the Emirates. Do you see this being a bit more favourable for those holding with the free hit still intact, on it being easier to navigate, Karan? all this
Yeah,
issue.
I totally agree. I'm just glad I've got my free hit so that I don't have to worry about 34 doubles, and I can attack with a 1 week punt in that week. Spurs and Chelsea are kind of instrumental in how a lot of wildcarders are framing their teams this week. I'm not sure, with more information in game week 31, the wildcard template might change, but definitely there's a lot of doubles to attack after for Chelsea and Spurs. So totally agree with what you've mentioned just there.
Reedy, for your case, you've already used your free hit. How are you going to prioritise with Tottenham and Chelsea assets?
Well, I've got Palmer, so that's that issue solved. I'm getting Gusto, so I'll have 2 Chelsea. I am going a bit gung-ho on Liverpool and Arsenal, so I am looking at having 3 Arsenal in 34. I will have 2 attackers, 1 defender. Same with the Liverpool, I'll have 2 attackers, 1 defender, but the defender is actually Kelleher, so whether you can count that, I don't know, because at that point, Alisson may be back. We don't obviously know what the timeline is yet. So, so it might end up being 2 Liverpool in that sense. But I'll still have a doubler in Neto because I could play him for Bournemouth, even though the fixtures, they're not great. They've got Villa and Wolves away, so don't expect any clean sheets. But I'm hoping that Kelleher maybe gets to 34. If not, it is what it is. But yeah, that's kind of my strategy, and I think I am looking at getting rid of Son in 33 for a Liverpool player. What I am hoping is, Chaz, is that the double falls in 36, not 35, because if I get rid of Son in 33, I'll have to get him back, obviously, a lot sooner. So if I can wait till 36, and that's where the double lands, they would also double in 37, Spurs, right? Is that, am I right in saying that? So
yes.
Doubles. So
yeah, they've got 2 pending fixtures, either 35-37 or 36-37.
Yeah, so I'm hoping it's the latter, the 36-37, because then I'd bring Son back.
Yeah. Reedy, I've got a question for you. Is it wise getting rid of a Tottenham asset heading into game week 33 when they've got Nottingham Forest at home?
It's 32 they play Forest at home. 33 they play. Yeah, 33 they play Newcastle away. Now that's still a great fixture. Yeah, Newcastle. Yeah, Botman's out. It looks like for the rest of the season. Newcastle aren't great defensively. It almost feels a prime Son game.
It does.
Taking him out isn't ideal, but then again, that game could lack goals, and I'm bringing in Luis Diaz at home to Palace. Okay. So, that's my kind of Son alternative for that week.
Well, I think just a general comment around removing players for bringing in players. I think we're all probably going to struggle with similar decisions even now or later throughout the season because there's so many good picks. I mean, I'm on wildcard. I'm thinking removing Foden and Watkins this week, and that could totally backfire. So, and I'm sure a lot of people who are wanting to bring in Salah this week are potentially getting rid of maybe Son or Saka. So,
yeah,
I think it's a problem of plenty, to be honest. Yeah.
That's right. Now, something did launch during the international break, and I'm happy to make this brief as well. But Fantasy Challenge game has been launched. So for Game Week 30, there's an unlimited budget. Game Week 31, forward score double points. Game Week 32, Manchester United and Liverpool players get double points. Karan, first to you. Are you taking part in this game? And what's your take on that as a game mode?
I will be participating, yes. Again, it's more on the fringe or on the sideline, right? It's something that you just look at it once a week and not worry about it. I think the main game still remains the main game for a reason. And if you're, still wanting to have some fun on the side, I do like the way the challenges have been defined for the first 3 game weeks. And it's almost like they're trialing a new way where maybe I think it's still on a beta testing mode. So once it depends on how the season goes for this kind of a challenge, they might make some changes to the main game next season. I'm not sure. But I mean, we're all into FPL, so why not?
Brady.
Yeah, this almost feels like FPL's mistress, doesn't it? You know what I mean? That naughty little side thing, where people can have fun and do what they want because it's just a weekly thing. You can pick your team, and the points, for this season at least, aren't rolled over. So you just go for as many players from what's crazy obviously is the format of it. You can pick more than 3 players from one team and so on. So yeah, similar to what Karan said, in a way, you don't really need to think about it too much. It is just we say FPL should be fun, but as we know, it's hard to have fun with this game because you do need to plan and you do need to kind of not take hits and things like that. That's part of that game and what people love so much. So with this FPL challenge, it's the complete opposite. So yeah, but I don't mind it. I think they've brought it in. I guess we see how it goes for the remainder of this season, and then who knows what they'll do for next season. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I'll be playing it, but I hope it takes off. I think it would be a good side distracting for fantasy managers just every now and then. That's how I see it. I think the unlimited budget would be quite intriguing as well. You could just pick whoever you like. But a new challenge every week, that also keeps all the managers intact and sort of keeps the fun within the game. So wildcards played heading into Game Week 30. I know, Karan, you're one of them. As it stood 24 hours ago, it was about 83,000. So I expect that to already be just over 100,000. Are you surprised by the lack of wildcards being played, or do you feel it's a reasonable amount, Karan?
I think there's going to be more to follow next game week. But it happens to be a midweek deadline again.
Yeah, short turnaround.
Short turnaround. And I feel, there's not going to be press conferences, I guess. So anything that we miss on is probably going to be until game week 32 in that case, if I'm not wrong. I feel the way I've kind of had a look in my fixtures of the players that I'm selecting, the template's going to be more or less the same. There's going to be 2 or 3 slots where you can take a punt. And if you're chasing, I think I don't mind going in early, and that's where I've gone activating my wildcard as soon as game week 29 finished.
Brady, would you be in agreement with that? Or have you got a slightly different take in regard to the amount of wildcards played, especially during an international break period?
I think there is a case for people holding off till next week. I do think there's obviously some people have got a completely different tactic in terms of doing it in 35, because of the way the doubles fall. We'll know by then what double is where and so on, and then you can potentially look at where that bench boost and so on. So. But yeah, I get it. I guess it's team dependent is one. I fully can see why Karan activated his. So I like any. I don't think there's a wrong sort of way to play this in any sense. But yeah, I can also see why people have different tactics on what they want to do. Whether they play it next week instead, because as you say, international break, there's loads of uncertainties. We get the pressers. Obviously, we want as much information as possible, especially on a wild card. Anyway, you want to make those right picks, not just for this week, but moving forward. So, yeah, I think it's a good time. It's the right time. If you feel it's right, you go for it.
Before mentioning my last discussion point, before we preview from each of our panel members for what our teams look like, we've got, of course, always a massive shout out to our major sponsor in Bonus Bank. Bonus Bank being Australia and New Zealand's best side hustle, where you can make a guaranteed profit from the bookmakers by taking advantage of their promotional offers. Bonus Bank has easy to learn tutorials and software that does the hard work for you. It's free to sign up, and you can also upgrade to a premium membership, which gives you access to more tools and software to increase your profits. Use our code FPL Addicts to receive 25% off your first month. For last discussion point, boys, I wanted to mention about back onto the Man City and Arsenal game. Players-wise, who would you bench and who would you still field? First to you, Reedy.
Oh, what? In terms of which, sorry?
So the players from Man City and Arsenal that you have, which ones would you bench, potentially? Which ones would you still stick on field? Would you field all the attacking players? Would you have a mixture from both ends of the pitch?
All
the players you have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to play all mine personally, only because I guess like my situation is probably different to you and Karan in a way, because I had players 429 that got injured and sent off. So my defense this week is is pretty bad. So it limits me in terms of who I can play and so on. So like those Arsenal players and those City players or whatever. Actually, I don't think I've got no City players. I've not got Haaland because I sold him. So it's literally just Arsenal, and I'm going to play Saka. Gabriel's the one that's interesting because of the defensive issue that I'm facing. I might end up having to play him, or he might end up getting auto subbed in. You'll see why probably in a bit. You'll probably laugh at me. So yeah, that's my situation at the minute. I think that big game players is another thing. It's hard to bench them. It really is, because you don't want to end up with egg on your face. So that's my kind of take on it, really. What about you, boys?
I think I partially agree with what Reedy's just mentioned. Big game players, right? But at the same time, I'm thinking, based on how we discussed the fixtures between the three of us, I think we said it's going to be a cagey affair. Could be a 0-0, 1-0, 1-1 kind of a game. It's just too hard to call. And I would just back the attackers, like you mentioned, Chaza. And again, I would probably consider Man City attackers to be in a higher pecking order than the Arsenal attackers. So if you have a problem where you've got 7 really good attackers, I wouldn't mind benching a Saka. And in my wildcard draft, that's where I'm currently at. Defenders, I would probably bench because it's going to be a 1-1 or a 1-0 from City, I feel. So yeah, Gabriel could be really hurting at the moment where, if I was to bench him and he comes up with a clean sheet, but it is what it is. You go with the narrative that you have.
Well, I can't lie. It wasn't fun benching Gabriel when he went away at Anfield and he scored a bullet header inside 4 minutes. I've only got 2 players, which probably isn't that bad, fielding both Foden and Gabriel. However, I could understand with some managers, especially if I loaded up on Arsenal with a good fixture run before game week 29 and managers needing to use their free hit plus Man City. Some have even got up to 6 players from both sides. And that is quite a difficult conundrum to try and navigate through. And it's half your sides, not just for one game. Whew. That is a lot. So you probably prioritise the attackers in that instance. But in terms of defenders, would you still have merit in benching all of them? Or would there be a compulsory defender you'd have to field regardless?
I think someone we've not spoke about is Foden. Some people probably, some people do have Phil Foden and he's been great. He's looked fantastic this season. People who haven't got him are looking at getting him back and maybe game week 33. I think it is a really tough call, but I think just you look at fixtures and you look at players like, Palmer, who has a great fixture. You look at Liverpool guys who have a great fixture. So like, I think we said about benching Haaland, benching Saka. I just don't like that feel. It just doesn't sit well with me. But I'm not on a wild card, so I'm not in Karan's shoes. And like, you have to make the best decision. What you think is the best decision for this game week, with bear in mind what we've said about we expect a low scoring game and so on. From a neutral point of view, I hope that it's not a low scoring game in a way. I mean, a draw is still what I want. Sorry, Chaza. Just from a Liverpool fan point of view, I'd like a draw. But if it's like a 2-2, 3-3, amazing. And some of those players that we're mentioning get on the score sheet or get assists and so on. People might have benched those players. So, yeah, I think I'm like probably 60-40 on bench than I am, play. Yeah.
On to wildcards now, and it's time to preview our sides heading into game week 30. Karan, you're the one with the fireworks being produced at the moment with your wildcard construction. It's like putting a scaffolding on the building site, and you've got to put all the pieces together for what is to come. This is the latest version I received, according to our Twitter correspondence. Is it still the same, and what's your intel behind it?
Well, as it stands, yes. But as you can see, I've got about 10 million in the bank. So the only decision I'm still not confirmed on is probably, do I take a punt on Muniz for a couple of game weeks, or because that's a future transfer out anyway, or do I just bring in Haaland and then not worry about the transfer that I'm committing to already? Again, some key nuggets there. I feel there's merit in the next two fixtures for Liverpool from a defensive standpoint. So having Kelleher in there, again, a caveat that I don't have bench boost. I use my bench boost, and in a single game weekend, I happened to score 29 points, which was quite lucky off the bench. So that's done and dusted. I've got a free hit to navigate game week 34. So Kelleher and Petrovic, I think Petrovic is going to be the keeper for the remaining of the season, apart from the first two game weeks for 30 and 31, where I would feel Kelleher. In the defense, I've got Gabriel, Aït-Nouri, Branthwaite from Everton, Gusto, and Lascelles. Lascelles is just a cheap enabler. I know Newcastle haven't been great, but at 3.9 million, you can't complain, where you would be benching him in some of the fixtures. I really like the look of the front eight if I had Haaland in there for Muniz. So I've got a stacked midfield with Salah, Son, Saka, Foden, and Palmer. And then my front three would be Haaland, Darwin, and Isak. Darwin and Isak, again, a lot of the Twitter community have been talking about, but I still have always been on the Darwin camp. So as much as he's been, an XG accumulator, but misses all his chances and hits the post. Being a Liverpool supporter, I feel there's merit in the Salah and Darwin double up for the rest of the season. The only couple of players that I feel I'm missing on, one is Watkins, but I'm sure a lot of us would be jumping off Watkins sooner rather than later with so many good options up front. The midfielder I wanted to have instead of Foden was Richarlison. But again, with the Richarlison injury rumors, I feel, I could still have Foden for the rest of the season. So, after game week 34 or maybe around 34, I'd start jumping on the likes of Højlund, Garnacho, and maybe Gordon from Newcastle. And that's why I've actually moved away from Dubravka as my second goalkeeper, just to keep that Gordon slot open. So that's the homework that I've done over the last week and a half of, waiting for the fixtures to kick in. But I feel I'm, say, 95% there with this draft. What are your thoughts, gents?
You ready?
I like it. I like the draft. I love the plan that you're putting into place and the way you're thinking what you're going to do moving forward and so on. You're probably one of the very few people I've seen keeping Foden, or not keeping, maybe having him in the wild card and so on. So I think that's really interesting. There is, the defensive picks I think are great. There is an argument, and it's only a slight argument, to maybe go without Gabriel. I know you've got Saka at the minute. Did you say you plan on getting another Arsenal attacker at some point?
In 34, I'd do a free hit, so I'd go probably Havertz, Saka, and one defender.
Yeah. So it's just for the free hit, basically. So, before that point, I think Arsenal do have another good fixture. I think, did they play Luton at some point?
They play Luton next week.
Brighton away. And
Brighton, I think, they're more than capable of scoring goals. So that's the only tweak I would maybe say. But obviously, it's not, considering you've got Salah, Palmer, Foden, Son, it's not necessarily a massive thing. But as I say, going without Gabriel and also having Branthwaite, I think when you look at who you're starting during this fixture period up to 34, I think you'll find that Branthwaite only has one good fixture. I think it's 32 or something. So I don't know whether it's a case where you could, whether you could have a United defender or a Spurs defender instead. And also,
I had a Spurs defender. Sorry, really. Instead of Branthwaite, I did have Udogie in my draft, but that wasn't leaving me with enough money for Muniz to Haaland straight up. So I would have to maybe compromise or sacrifice on one of either Foden or Saka. So I do get your point around maybe shipping Gabriel out and getting a Spurs defender in that case, but I don't really like the look of the potential doubles in 35 and 36 or 37 for Spurs, because if you look at it, they play Arsenal away, Liverpool away in each of those game weeks, and I don't see a clean sheet there. So I think for me, defense, I've probably gone as cheap as chips, because I know that there's not many clean sheets around anyway. So I've tried to get that front eight in order. But then again, that front eight gives me a benching headache every week. Apart from if there's a potential Darwin injury or an Isak injury, I think, all 8 of them, with the kind of fixtures they have regardless, they warrant a space in the playing 11. So I get where you're coming from with the defensive standpoint.
Yeah, it is tough. I mean, you want all those midfielders, and obviously the forwards look really well. I suppose not cheap, but 7.5 for 2 strikers and then a 4.6 is great. But as you've said, you're going to get Haaland in, so that's already a booked transfer for you, and you need to have the money in the bank there to be able to get to him. I don't think many people are in that situation whereby they're moving monies to Haaland. So I think that's really interesting that you've done that, because a lot of people are going to be going Watkins to Haaland, or whoever else that may be wildcarding in and so on. So yeah, I love that. And I think at one point, I think Newcastle's fixtures are great. If not, they start from West Ham's actually good at home, but they have a good fixture run at some point. Liverpool obviously have the next 6 are fantastic. Haaland. So you probably expect City at the business end of the season to do well. I can't knock this draft too much. As I say, I think you've got it right pretty much on the defense. Other than you could tweak one thing really, but I really like it, Grant. Love it.
Yeah, I quite like it as well, especially with a cheap backline. I agree with Karan's sentiment in that, but there's not much of an incentive to pay up more in defense. I love a 5-man midfield there to really covers a lot of bases, especially from the top sides. The forwards, yeah, I do agree with some of your points. It is risk averse, but it can also come with high reward. Darwin providing to be a really good differential, especially in the next 2 home games Liverpool have. And Manish is a good shout. And Alexander Isak. My question is with his front 3 is that it depends what your stance is on Haaland this season, because he hasn't been as explosive as he could be. Do you feel if you're in this predicament with that much bank, there's no hesitation whatsoever to just move one of them to Haaland, potentially maybe Alexander Isak of all of them, surprisingly?
Yeah, I think that's exactly where I'm not sure which one of the 3 would go, but I've just ensured that there's enough money in the bank if I was to ship out Muniz in a week or 2. So, but again, Darwin, Isak, one of them could get injured even ahead of the run-in where there's double game weeks and whatnot. So having that free hit intact for 34 so that I get the right Liverpool players, and Kelleher might be redundant by then because Alisson might be back. So with all of that in mind, and even Trent, if Bradley is not available if Trent becomes available, I didn't want to go in on Bradley because I need my defenders for the rest of the season. So I've considered those kind of scenarios, and I feel having that luxury of having that money in the bank, any one of the front 3 could become a Haaland in that case. But at the same time, if I'm not captaining Haaland over the next 3 game weeks or 4 game weeks, do I even need Haaland? Because Muniz has got the next 3, including Newcastle as the 3rd fixture at home. So there's that conundrum of Haaland or no Haaland, but I'm sure I'm going to give in and get Haaland ahead of the deadline.
This question applies again, Karan, to you, because you mentioned benching headaches, right? Now, you'd have, obviously, we've got Darwin here instead of Haaland or Watkins. What do you do this week? I'm sure you've got a plan, but who do you play?
Well, the reason I don't have Haaland in my screenshot that I've shared is because I don't want to have this conundrum, because I don't want to have this dilemma of benching Haaland. If Haaland is in my 15, he starts. It's as easy as that. With the EO, with the home fixture, in my current front 8, I'm benching Saka at the moment, so I'm starting Foden at the home fixture. Because there's something about Foden this season. I feel, I know, Reedy, you mentioned about people jumping on, jumping off Foden. I still feel that Foden has been so important for Man City this season. And he's really come of age this season. I feel that I actually benched him for the 20-pointer haul, which he had. And I started Darwin for a 0-pointer. So again, being a Liverpool supporter, I think I got a bit emotional in that game week. And I had to take a break from FPL after that game week. So, but I think, looking forward, I'm just keen on enjoying the season, and even if it was to bench one of the front 8, I don't mind doing it.
Yeah, amazing. But good luck with that wild card. And you'll have to, we'll keep an eye out on socials to see where you're at, where you end up with that wild card and so on. But really excited for you. One question before we go anywhere, Chazza, just quickly is, I'll give this to you, Karan, I suppose. Is Foden the Palmer, considering the topic has just been Foden, worth a -4?
I think I'd do it. I think Palmer for the rest of the season, if not for his price tag at 5.7 or 5.8, had he been 8.5, I'm sure a lot of people would be thinking of Palmer more seriously. So, and which is going to be corrected next season. I'm sure next season he's not going to be any cheaper than 9 million. So I'd go for it.
Fair dues. You, Chazza?
It's a good entry point for
Yeah.
Palmer against Burnley, right? At home.
Yeah.
I'd heavily consider it, but I would not.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah.
Any reason? Just you don't like the -4, or like it's
I just
Foden?
feel
So
that Foden, with its form this season, is more than capable of producing a double-digit haul, regardless of who the opponent is. I feel if he could get his chance, and he shined a lot in the Manchester derby, scoring 15 points, got his 20. He's had some good hauls, Phil Foden. He's got Aston Villa, and then he's got Luton, from what I can recall as well, coming up, and Palace. There's no reason why he can't at least match Cole Palmer's run within the next 4 to 5 game weeks.
Yeah, very interesting take on from both of you. I wasn't, two different takes, which is great. You know what I mean? Like that's what it's all about. But yeah, I think I stopped you in your tracks there, Chazza. Apologies, mate. You were off to say something there. Yes,
Reedy, is it time to reveal your side now heading to game week 30? I'm very interested by this.
Yeah, why not? Why not? I'll let you know what I've done for this week. I think Colm and maybe John put something in the in the chat earlier about am I taking a hit? And the answer is yes. I didn't plan to, so I wasn't planning on taking a hit. I'll just add my team in here. I am struggling defensively, so let me just see if I can. I don't know if I can zoom out a little bit on this just so you can get the whole team in there. So, yeah, as it stands, Kelleher in goal. I've got a pick between him and Neto, but I just think us at home is a higher percentage of a clean sheet than Bournemouth to Everton. We look at Everton, who are probably going to stay up anyway, regardless of what happens with deductions and stuff. They'll probably get a goal against Bournemouth. And so I brought in Gusto. That was my -4 because I did have Doughty, and it just so happens that Doughty's now fit. So, listen, it is what it is. I went early yesterday, and then I found out, I seen in the presser that Doughty's back. But, I would have probably played him. But the thing is, I'm thinking, like, it's against Spurs. Was I really going to get much from it anyway? And the other issue was Reguilon doesn't serve. He only serves a 1-match ban. I thought it was like a 2-match or 3, for a straight red. So I did consider taking out Reguilon, and then I heard that, and I thought, okay, well, I can keep him, and I'll take out Doughty because he's injured. So that was my move. Did Gusto. Van de Ven, I think, looks like a doubt at the minute. So it does look like Gabriel might end up coming in, as I said earlier, automatically. Perkez, oh, God. I mean, that was a 28 masterclass, wasn't it, for the double? I think he got taken off at half-time, got a yellow. And then, he's not being a great pick. So Atara is someone who could come in for him. Lloyd Kelly's now back, I think. Max Aarons is back. So whether he gets any minutes, I don't really know. The rest of the team, happy with the midfield. Palmer captain. Yeah. I mean, there's arguments that I could be going Son or Salah. I probably should go Salah, being a Liverpool fan and stuff. But I just think Palmer, just from an FPL point of view, this season has been fantastic. He's the heart of Chelsea, of what they do. And, he is more than capable of getting a haul. So, I've been stung by captaining Son against Luton and against Sheffield this season, and maybe other teams. He could also obviously bang. It's a tricky one. I think it's between those three, but I'm fairly confident I want to go to Palmer. I feel like that is the best fixture out of the three. And given what we've said about Burnley as well, I think that is the one. It may change before deadline, but at the minute I'm probably 80% on that I want to go with Palmer. And then I'm left with Watkins and Tony up front. 2 home fixtures. Yeah,
I think home fixtures, and Watkins definitely is probably still a fixture away before being considered on the chopping block.
Yeah. So, It's not the best team. Could it be a bit happier? Like, could I have better players? Sure. A Langer against Palace. That's another one not many people may have, but Forest have been a little bit hit and miss as such. So I'm generally happy. I would say I've got how many? I've got 9. Is it? Maybe actually, it's about if Gabriel comes in for Van der Ven, I think I'll have 9 home players. Or maybe even 9. Sorry. So I can't really complain about that. I've got a good midfield. Hopefully Watkins and Tony do some stuff for me. I think Watkins is going to be pretty high owned still anyway. So yeah, that's me for Game Week 30, lads. Over to you, Chazza.
Right on standby. Here we go. Now, it's a funny one. I've decided not to activate it this week. I was tempted, but the reason why, this is a side transitioned not playing the free hit in 29, so I've had to build up towards it, field of 10. So the Luton fixtures aren't great, so they're getting to a point of being useless. But the fixtures are okay for, I think, one more week. And the main reason as for why I haven't activated the chip is 1 Aston Villa at home to Wolves and Luton at home. The interesting one, probably a decent point of difference heading into the game on Saturday, is still having James Maddison at home to Luton. That really complements a strong 5-star midfield there. I really like Dominic Solanke at home to Everton as well. The goalkeepers need sorting, but I do feel come game week 31, because Villa away at City. Spurs don't have a bad fixture away at West Ham, but sort of looking at avenues to maybe go for an Arsenal attacker too. Luton still have not a great fixture away at Arsenal. I think it might be wildcard time come next week. And then Watkins would go as well. What's your take?
I think you've got a perfect argument around not hitting the wildcard button this week, because you've got the squad that you've got on in front of us. What were your moves this week, Chaza?
Yeah, of course. So I really wanted to do it on the live broadcast. I've been a big fan of it recently, and I did notice that Salah was expected to go up. However, he did not. So the move was I went kudos to Salah and backing him with the armband, just 1 free transfer. Now, I've got a question for next week. So that's a transfer. Felt it was straightforward, and at the moment I've got, it would be 5.1 million in the bank. That's the lowest amount. Mate, what's going on? Seriously,
I've kicked you out, Chaz. They've kicked you out, mate. That's it. Good season. All the best. Finish now.
Better luck next time, Chaza.
Yeah.
This happened again last week. This is terrible. What's going on?
Yeah,
I've got to have to sort that out, but we'll just carry on with the discussion. However, heading into next week, I was thinking of getting rid of potentially 2 Villa assets, maybe getting a Gusto in, maybe from Powell, and then probably getting Haaland in from Ollie Watkins or Muniz. Is it worth taking the -4 come game week 31 to save that wild card and potentially play it after game week 34, or is it worth just going for a full-on reshuffle?
What other chips do you have? You've got free hit available.
Got the free hit, got the bench boost, got the wild card.
And you reckon a -4 would fix bringing Haaland and Muniz in, or bringing Haaland and one of the defenders in, right?
That's what I'm sort of thinking, yeah, because I think Spurs don't have a bad fixture, but Luton assets are again on the bench, and you'd sort of think, are they worth being there for 1 more week? Game week 32, I think I can survive because everyone has an excellent fixture, including Luton, who are at home to Bournemouth. I mean, game week 33, that's pretty much the dead end sort of week.
Yeah, because 34 you'd consider free hitting, 35 you might wildcard, 37 you might bench boost.
Yeah, bench boost 37, I'm thinking, and then it would be wildcard in 35. That's what
I don't think that's a bad strategy for you, considering you've got all your chips intact and the squad that you've got. Because I'm wildcarding into a midfield of 4 out of those 5 that you've got.
Yeah.
So, and I think Solanke is a decent hold over the next few fixtures. You've got a couple of good defenders already in there. So I see logic to what you're saying.
Yeah, I think goalkeepers could be worth trying to change up, but goalkeepers, I mean, there hasn't been a lot of clean sheets or monster hauls. In some weeks, you could easily get lucky, but that's what it is. I Calm.
I mean, so you can't get to Haaland with just Watkins straight
No,
swap?
I'm already priced out.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
Because he's 14.3 and I think Watkins might be 8.8.
Yeah, I'd have to do Morris down to Manise, but even if I did the Morris, Manise, Watkins, Haaland move, I'll be priced out by 0.1. So it has to be a defensive downgrade, which means for next week, if that was to occur, that would be a -8. And then looking at that, you'd think you may as well wildcard.
Yeah, if you're on a -8, you've got a keeper situation to sort out. Because I'm sure, you can always look at your squad and say you're probably 3 moves away from a wildcard squad. So, yeah, and there's counter arguments as well. So if you are thinking 34 free at 35 wildcard without worrying about the goalkeeper, I think you should still be okay. But the moment you start bringing the wider picture in, maybe just pull the trigger next week.
Oh, it's almost like you're trying to prevent ripping the Band-Aid off. Like I get what you're trying to do, and you're saying you've kind of got a lot of these players that people are going to have anyway or already have. So I can see where you're coming from, absolutely. But then, are you just then taking a -4 when realistically you can wildcard, have all the players that you want moving forward, and then you can now start planning similar to Quran. You can start planning then rather than leaving it, and then you're thinking I should have done it last week or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you've got to weigh that up. Like obviously you've saved all those 3 chips, which is great to this point of the season. Yeah, I know what you like as well, Chazzy. You kind of like once you're set on something, you very rarely change your mind. So yeah, you just do what you think's best for yourself, matey.
That's right. So the next segment, some great points, Reedy and Karan. Thank you for that. Game week 31. This may be the podcast place to go to. Who knows? In terms of Bonus Bank, our sponsor Bonus Bank has a fantastic free tool to help managers edge their mini league rivals on a weekly basis. This tool displays the probabilities of clean sheets for each team and which player is likely to score. This is useful in determining the best defensive picks and consider assets likely to score this game. The number one side who are more likely to keep out a clean sheet is Liverpool with 50%. And 61%, the asset that is most likely to score is the inevitable Egyptian king in Mohamed Salah. Captain's corner time after all of our 80 minutes. Is there anything you both would like to say or any points I may have missed before I go straight into my segment?
I think we've covered a fair bit.
A fair bit. Right.
Captain this guy, that's all I'll say.
Ooh, I like that one. That is good. Let's go straight into it. Captain's corner, multiple options, and I can't lie, my life has been so busy, but I've got a couple of points for each of them. Start off with Mo Salah, who's had 5 goals and 4 assists in his last 8 league duels against Brighton, with his last blank against the Seagulls coming in December 2019. He's owned by just under 27%. Some may see him as a bit of a differential hit for this week. He's got an XGI, which is expected goal involvement of 1.02 per 90 minutes, which is only second to Haaland. Salah, in addition, averages 9.4 points as a starter in home games with 11 goals and 2 assists from his 11 Anfield outings. Brighton have conceded at least 3 goals in their last 2 road trips across all competitions. Last but not least, he's got a double game week 34 on the horizon for the Egyptian Son Heung-min. Now, his relevance has come back into the frame. Despite his blank away at Fulham, where Spurs lost 3-0, he got a whopping 17-point haul away at Villa Park, which has put him back on the radar. Luton have conceded the most goals away from home out of any Premier League side with 34 in their 14 road trips this season. He currently has 196,000 transfers in, with West Ham and Forest in his next 2 after the Luton game and before their blanking game week 34. Now let's talk about Cole Palmer. He's got an amazing record against promoted sides. And who would have thought? He's got 3 double-digit hauls, 1 at home to Sheffield, away at Burnley, away at Luton as well. In addition, he's coming off a 13-point haul at home against Newcastle before they blanked in 29. Burnley have conceded the second highest amount of goals all season. Erling Haaland as well. He did get 16 points in the corresponding fixture last season. And then as well as that, no, not much at all. Straight into Ollie Watkins. I completely forgot what I was talking about for a moment. He's, from what I know, is the highest scoring player in the game. At home to Wolves, he managed to score 23 points early in the season against Villa Park. He's been very good on the double digits away from home as well, and on the forefront of Villa's attack. A bit of a dark horse, Ollie Watkins. Unfortunately, I don't have enough stats. I'm so sorry to you lot. But that is it. 5-star options. I've had an absolute chaos week. Thank you for your understanding. As always, I'm going to bring everyone back into the frame, and I promise you it'll be a lot better come midweek of Game 31 with the short turnaround. Who are we captaining for this week? Is it the Egyptian King, or are we swerving elsewhere? Reedy, have you changed your mind from Cole Palmer or not?
Speaking of Kings, I am tempted to go with Mo Salah. But I think I'm sticking with Palmer,
Wow.
The temptation to go with Salah is there because of his ownership. Like you'd probably expect with all the wild cards and, with the money floating about that people have got in their bank, like Salah would be the better option. So I don't know, guys. You guys obviously captained in Salah, so I feel like I should make it, a hat trick and go with him, especially being a Liverpool fan. Obviously, I think in terms of the games and when they're played, there's only 2 games on Sunday, right? So the rest of the games are being played on Saturday. Yeah, 3:00 kickoff for Chelsea. I really don't know. I am pretty set on Palmer, but the temptation is there for Salah. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, you guys set on Salah then?
Yeah,
I think this week's a 3-horse race between Salah, Son, and Palmer. So you've gone Palmer. I'm currently 55% Salah, 45% Son. I'm just waiting on the pressers to understand whether Richarlison would play or not. Because if Richarlison's an injury doubt, that means Son starts at number 9. Luton have conceded a lot of chances from the centre. And that's where I'm thinking it's a prime fixture for Son. Spurs would want to rebound on the loss that they had last time against Fulham. Yeah, I feel if there's a fixture that's primed for Son, it's this one. So as much as I'm a Liverpool supporter and I've got Salah on my wild card, I'm still thinking it's a better fixture for Son. Regarding Palmer, I still feel I'm not that confident on Chelsea as a unit, because at times they can score a 2-0, 3-0. At times they struggle. So I just don't know which Chelsea would turn up. So I'm thinking it's either Salah or Son for me.
And you, Chazza? Similar thinking, or you just set on Salah?
I'm still Salah, but I think I'm quite entertained by the idea in captaining Son, especially how lackluster Luton's defence is away from home this season. Cole Palmer, okay, so this is my thing. He's 5.8 million for a reason. I hate to say, great captain option. He'll probably score a double-digit haul. However, you're paying 13 million for a certain player. You're not even going to bother captaining him. And then you got Son, who's 10 million, and you're captaining the player who's priced substantially divided by 2 from that. Someone that's near 6 million over 2 assets that cost 23 million.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
I know. It's just tricky. I think Luton defence is definitely tempting in terms of the lack of defence they've got. And Son obviously being great in that sense. And Salah, other than Brentford, we've not really seen much else from him, have we? So, we're at home, which is great. Brighton defensively aren't great. I don't know. It's such a tough decision. I just feel like as hit and miss as Chelsea have been this season, I feel like now's the time really for them to kind of pick up a lot of points. And Burnley they're just so bad. I can just imagine Chelsea just winning about 3-4-0. I think in the other fixture they beat them 4-1, was it? And that was away at Burnley. And at that stage, Chelsea weren't great. They were even worse in the season. Whereas I feel like Tottenham are we've seen the prime example against Fulham. They will want to bounce back. but they are playing someone who are fighting for survival. So I do feel like once Spurs, they get into a habit of like that old saying being Spursy. They don't score for a certain period in that game. The longer that goes on, you're just thinking, oh, are they going to actually score? Is Son going to haul? So this is why I'm thinking Palmer's a little bit more simpler. He just plays the game. Completely different player compared to Salah and Son, obviously, but he just plays the game with such ease. And I just feel like he's there to just pluck out assists for anyone, whether it be Sterling, Jackson, whoever. So that's my outtake on it. Really interesting how we're so divided. But I feel like this is the game where if you potentially pick the wrong captain. I mean, imagine they all score the same points, then no one's won or lost. But this is a week where if you do pick the wrong captain, it obviously gives you, not a red arrow as such, but might not give you that green that you were hoping for.
Yeah.
So interesting.
That's right. I think that does it in terms of this evening. That doesn't seem to be. Karan, well done. You were great. Any chance we can let Karan do the Jack outro this week? Hazza. Karan, do you know much about the outro we do?
To be honest, no. So I think
that's fair.
Maybe next time.
Reedy. Yeah, look, Reedy, you take the reins, and then I'll leave it as that. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We got 90 minutes. All the very best of this game week to you all, whoever may have tuned in, and may your arrows be green. Same can't be said for Fantasy Challenger because the scores reset to 0. Reedy, thanks to you once again. Karan, thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us this evening. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Great to be here.
Good luck with the wild card as well, buddy. Yeah.
Thanks, mate.
Right. One last thing to say, Reedy.
Yeah. Too much pressure. Eat shit, Jack.